Testing 1, 2, 3.
We just got it. Oh, you are? Okay. So just, okay. You're choosing to stand on it. Not listed on your instructions. But I think they're helpful. I've found them helpful. They help clarify some things for me.
In theory, whoever's talking on Teams
Okay, I'm talking, testing.
He's going to be on.
Okay, testing. Can you hear me? Testing. Okay.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the public board meeting of February 25th, 2025. Thank you for those here in person and thank you for those who are able to join us online. As we gather today, we would like to acknowledge the traditional territories and oral practices of the Blackfoot Nations, which includes the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai. We also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina and Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nations, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. So right now we are on our consent agenda number 3, and I am asking if anybody would like to pull anything from the consent agenda. Allison, is your hand up? Okay. Well, Allison is looking. Is there anyone else? Tina, may I see online? The participants online as well. Thank you. Allison. Everybody can just make sure that your mics are on as well.
Just would like to pull 3.7 just for some information. Thank you.
3.7 Joint City School Boards Committee. We will put that under information items 13.3. Anything else from consent agenda? All right, Allison. Trustee Purcell has pulled 3.7 Joint City School Boards Committee from the consent agenda to be placed on 13.3. Approve, oh, Craig.
3.2. I guess I'd like to get a little more on the report than what's listed there.
So 3.2 Board Budget Committee, Trustee Whitehead has requested that be put on. I'll put that as 13.4 under information items. Any other requests? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to approval of the agenda. I am looking for a motion to approve, please. Andrea. Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We actually do need to add something else to the agenda that I've not done. 11.6 under action items, 11.6, we are adding childcare partnership. Thank you. All right, now I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda. Andrea, those in favor? And that's approved. Thank you. Now we're at approval of the minutes. Are there any errors or omissions that need to be noted? And if not, I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes. Allison.
Just a simple one on 12.4, the spelling of my first name. Yep, just on 12.4, the spelling of my first name.
Thank you, Algion. All right, may I have a motion to approve, please? Oh, Christina.
I think also just clarity under between 9.3 and 9.4. I feel like there was, when I called the question, it was like, I don't know if that's correct.
So in that case, when we were talking about that one, and you called the question so that we could vote, and then when they voted, they had to do a vote on whether to actually vote at that time, and it was defeated, and then it goes back to discussion, and then that eventually was carried. First motion.
So then the call to question doesn't go on record?
No, it's there. I just wasn't sure if it was listed, like if it needed to be listed under the motion that it was attached to, because it looks like I made the way I read it, it looks like I made a call to question about the superintendent evaluation.
No, we call it because
it was
the
before the other
motion was
motion.
made
Got it.
first. We were discussing it, then you called the question, so that follows that motion. And then it was defeated and we go back up to the original motion, so.
Greg?
Under 9.4, I think it should have been against the 5 and then 4 for the 2. We got it just backwards, I think. For the first reading of the trustee code of conduct policy.
Was to table it.
Oh, table.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
to table it.
I missed the word
Yeah.
table.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Nope, it's good to confirm these things. Anything else? All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes, please. Christina, those in favor? And that's carried. We've had no business arriving from the minutes, and so now we'll move on to our Associate Superintendent reports, business and operations. Christine.
Okay, February is always kind of one of those months that's because it's short. It seems short because of stuff going on. So, so some of the items are short, but I do want to get a nod in for the ICE showcase event on March 27th, Winston Churchill High School, 6:30 to 8:30, and we will have student innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship displays. We'll have refreshments and door prizes. We've got lots of great tech door prizes. So just a reminder to people to save the date for that. West Cooley Station, just some updates on some activity going on in the school. Work continues. So we got pictures of the staff room, pictures of the mechanical room. Mechanical room, that's the most people I've seen in that mechanical room working when I've been walking around. So it was kind of, that's why I took a picture, because it was exciting to see all the work going on in there. And then also, just to give you a concept of size, when you're in that gym of that school, it is huge. And so you can see they use that, of course, when they're in construction for staging all the work they need to do. And see that they're painting doors and they've got materials laid out. So then again, that's just for interest. Thursday's a big day, or one of the big days in budget preparations. Of course, the Alberta government will be tabling its budget. So we'll be watching closely to see what nuggets are in that budget. Of course, school divisions don't normally see the fine details of what that budget means, and specifically to our school division, until sometime in March when we get our funding commitment profiles and things like that. So we'll see what kind of information we can glean on Thursday. We're, as always, we hope for a good budget. It's needed, and we'll see where we land. Transportation, just wanted to remind again about safety related to zones in around around school buses. Just because we do sometimes hear of incidents of where kids are running out from behind school buses. I had a concerned parent raise an issue of a bus where kids were continually walking behind the bus into traffic. And so that's, always remind not to do that. Wait for the bus to leave before crossing the street so you can be visible and be seen. Technology, always lots going on in technology. Gilbert Patterson has recently added 6 workstations in their learning commons to make their learning commons a little more busy and active and related to esports. And so that's good to see. Gilbert Patterson is now joining in that the esports. And then Senator Joyce Fairburn that has our laptop program where students have their laptops. They now have this cart that's called Anywhere Carts, and they're piloting it to see how it works. And it's the ability to, if you're having a problem with your laptop, you put it in the secure locker, and then technology is notified that they can pick it up, they can do their work on the computer, put it back, and you get a secure code to come and get your laptop back. So it's a way to have that exchange and deal with the service calls related to those laptops, because those students use them quite a bit in school. So it's important to be able to get those repairs quickly and get them done. And then replacement, we're always looking at how we replace our equipment. Something that came to our attention when we did do our security audit was that, we really do need to replace our desktop printers. We have 160 desktop printers within the division that are it kind of past their age and need to be replaced. And so, and old equipment is, technology equipment is actually a security risk. And so we want to make sure that we're getting those updated. So they're planning on that. And then also we have technology department, part of our evergreening cycle, we're replacing the school laptops at elementary school so that they're a little more robust to deal with some of the software that the software is always evolving. And so there's always something new and greater and it taxes the equipment. So Minecraft is a big software that our elementaries use. And so we want to make sure they can handle that. So those are being replaced this summer. Repetitive strain awareness month, it's also heart month, but I thought there's a strain moment, which was interesting because I thought we'd focus on that as a safety message because we all have things that we do that repetitive work that can cause strains. And tomorrow is Pink Shirt Day. So it's also a really good day tomorrow. And that's it.
Thank you, Christine. Any questions for Christine? Andrea.
I just want to thank you and Garrett and your team for all your work towards the ICE scholarship event. And I encourage everybody to come. Thank you for getting those super exciting prizes. That's wonderful. I also just wanted to ask about the Anywhere cart. If it's successful at SJF, will it roll out to other schools?
I can't answer that because SJF's the only one with a laptop program. So that we're not piloting, but we're running. So I don't know if it's something that, because we don't work on student laptops at their own devices at other schools. So couldn't answer that.
Allison.
Thank you for your report, Christine. I have a couple of questions, and one is in regards to the Senator Joyce Fairburn laptop program. So you might not be the person to ask the question to, but I certainly hear lots from parents, and knowing that when that school opened, they did the laptop program and started it as a pilot, and they've continued it on. So just curious in terms of, are there, I assume that families are surveyed and asked whether they like it or not, and is there other division schools that are looking at doing a laptop, like the same type of thing that we have at Senator Joyce Fairburn in other division schools, or has that been looked at all? And it may not be you, it may be more.
Yeah, I honestly can't answer that. I know the school, I believe the school does a survey every once in a while. I don't know what the most recent survey is of their families on that. And yeah, I'm not aware of any other school at this time looking to do that.
Craig.
Yeah, on the SJF laptops, do the laptops stay at the school, or do kids take them home, or do you know?
I don't know if they take them home. They probably keep them at the school, was my understanding.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Christine, for your report. Next, we will move to 7.2 instructional services. Morag.
Okay, fairly brief, as Christine noted, of course, in the last 3 days, there's been lots of things evolving in instructional services as we return from Teachers Convention. As many of you know, Carly Ramatowski is the successful candidate for our early learning coordinator position that was once occupied by Rochelle Neville, who has officially, as of March 1st, will be our Director of Inclusive Education. It's nice to finally have a team in place. It's been a little bit of a scary month, not knowing where the cards would land, but we have two fabulous people who will be running those two portfolios moving forward. As it's noted in the report, Gitsikakoman is February, Blackfoot for I Love You. Our mental health capacity building team and our Indigenous education team have really partnered to do the kindness call out, and then as well supporting at each of our division levels different needs within our community. Some really nice work that's happening in our schools there. I have just profiled a little bit of language programming work. It's sort of something that we do with our principals in just highlighting and ensuring that we're providing sufficient instructional supervision and support and leadership with our language programs, the two primary ones being French immersion and Spanish bilingual. And just some work that happened from a recent meeting that is nice for our board, I think, to see. We really are proud of the work that we do within our language programs, and we're always brought back to, the purpose of our language programs, and just shared a little bit of what those conversations looked like. Lastly, our friend Erin Herkett in curriculum and instruction learning. She certainly is busy continuing the work with report cards. And then, of course, the committee work around literacy and then our new curriculum. We just recently received information from the government that there will be kindergarten boost funding for all intents and purposes. That will be rolled out in March, so we'll get more information then. I don't want to receive or release any more information than that because it's new to me today. So I'm sure for March there will be more information related to that. Some important dates. I know, pardon my voice, I'm on day 14 of recovering from pneumonia, so I'm not contagious. I've reassured Andrea she can go to do surgery with her little person tomorrow. I'm just fighting the last remnants of a bug. Indigenous education updates and dates, important for you all to know, because I know once we hit March, it's rolling down the hill and you guys are running right, left, and center. But we have May 29th is our Indigenous Student Achievement Awards night at GS Lakey from 5:30 to 7:30. Indigenous student graduation is May 20th from 5:30 to 7:30. And of course, I'll make sure these are all written down for our next report for next month. June 11th, we are going to be offering an elementary powwow. Joel and the team identified that, that was something that was always really well received by our students, and we wanted to reignite that opportunity. And so June 11th at Dr. Proby, we will be hosting an elementary powwow. And then, of course, June 21st, which is a Saturday, is Indigenous Peoples Day. Reminder to parents, we do have a kindergarten information session tomorrow here at the board office. 6:30 to 7:30, Rochelle will be providing some information alongside principals, just for parents to have questions and answers around what is kindergarten, what does it look like, and how do we support our new little people as they come into the school system. So please do come if you are interested. Our Inclusive Education Parent Advisory, Jackie has updated for you all. We will be informing parents who are successful through the application process by Friday. And all parents will be informed. There were 30 parents who showed interest. That's a really exciting number to know that we have that many parents who are really interested in participating and committing to this parent advisory. And the first meeting will be in April, date to be determined, but that will be circulated out again through our website and to the parents who've been successful in the application process. And then KinderCare expression of interest has also gone out. So our two schools, Senator Buchanan and Nicholas Sharon, who have been hosting KinderCare this year, they have now sent out expression of interest to those parents who have registered at the school for kindergarten. Lots of little things buzzing, so we'll be busy in the next little while. I think working on that, our new curriculum, of course, and also ensuring that our kindergarten students who are identified as at risk are going to be served by additional funding and supports that the government will be allocating soon.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Morag, for your report. Are there any questions for Morag? Craig?
Yes, thank you, Morag. On the language programming, do we offer core French in the other schools, elementary schools?
We do. It's actually by policy. Can't remember the policy number. Yeah, so certainly something that, that ultimately will, grade 4, did you say, Andrew? Yeah, 4 or 5, yeah. So yes, it is offered.
Any other questions for Morag? Andrea?
I just wanted to thank you for having a kindergarten parent night to highlight our wonderful programs and build up interest. And I'm looking forward to hearing about the expression of interest and how much there is in our play and learn kinder care programs. And just looking ahead to the elementary powwow, does another school sometimes get bussed over, or several schools get bussed over?
I'm uncertain of the structure that Joel will be working with principals on, but what we have done in the past is walking distance, so that the kids also have an opportunity to move and be active and get outside if the weather's good. Of course, if the weather isn't great, then we'll have to look at alternate settings, but I would anticipate that each year, and Joel has shared this with me, that we will be looking at a different elementary school and different quadrant each year. So hopefully by 5 years, each of our school sections will have an opportunity to attend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Jenny?
Thank you for your report. Just looking at some of the information shared under curriculum and instruction and highlighting the anticipation of our next rollout for new curriculum in grades 6 through 9. Can you share with us a little bit more information about what is anticipated in the next rollout and how we're preparing for that?
I think we have to really lean heavily on what we've done already, Jenny, right? I think Erin's done a masterful job with our curriculum teachers to ensure that teachers feel prepared and feel supported. I think what Jody and Michaela have done already in working with the literacy and the numeracy portfolios have really developed relationships with our middle schools where it should be a seamless transition as we continue to support our teachers to feel comfortable with the new rollout. As you know, we have had some pilots that have happened with social studies and science. And as we move into next year, we're obviously going to be focusing a lot of attention on supporting our middle schools more so, because that's where the new curriculum will be rolled out. I would anticipate as well, Jenny, I cannot again do justice to the deliberate rollout of what Erin will be planning as far as scheduling dates and meetings and topic and subject matter, and I would lean on Erin for that. And I definitely, as we get closer to the end of the year, will be sharing that with the board so that you're all familiar with what the plan is. Okay.
Jenny?
I appreciate that. Thank you. And of course, appreciate Erin and her team and all the work that they are doing. Can you outline for us, do we have information on what is like, which subjects or which grade levels or which things are coming next? Like, do you have further information on that? Okay.
I'll get that for you for March, Jenny. Okay. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? And Tina, would you be able to just, when I ask for more questions, just peek to see if there's anything online? Thank you. All right, seeing none, thank you, Morag, for your work. I am glad you're on recovery. That's a long haul. Pneumonia is a long haul, so it's good to have you here. All right, let's move on to 7.3, Human Resources. Robbie.
Thank you. I just have a couple of highlights. I do want to specifically speak to our staff recognition, so our Spirit of 51 Support Staff Recognition Program taking place on March 12th. We've had an overwhelming number of nominations come forward this year, so we're really excited about those submissions and deciding on who will be recognized. And of course, if you're not recognized this year as a support staff member, it's because you already have been in the last 3 years. So it's not for any other reason than that. So we're looking forward to that recognition program, as it's such an incredible event that's really meaningful to our staff. As well, I would like to speak to, it's not on the agenda, but it's going to happen in March as well, our sub appreciation. We will be acknowledging and honoring our sub and casual staff and employee groups during sub appreciation week, March 10th to 14th. So we've got some things planned, and we're hoping to do some partnerships with our ATA local and our QP groups. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Robbie? Andrea.
Thank you for highlighting the Spirit of 51 recognition event and 155 nominations. That's awesome. So hoping to see you all there on March 12th. And I know it's a unique year with staffing, with our new school, our West Cooley Station School. And once that is all staffed, could you tell us a little bit about how the rest of the staffing rolls out after that is all staffed, that school is staffed?
You bet. So it's a really exciting time. We've put an expression of interest out to our continuing contracted teachers for West Cooley Station positions, currently based on what we know about enrollment. I've been meeting with our principal groups on enrollment and projections to look at what staffing might look like. Once we get our budget and our budget profile, we'll have a better idea of what staffing might look like. But this year we are offering an opportunity in that first wave, another opportunity for an expression of interest for our continuing contracted teachers. There's excitement in the air, I think, and a shout out to some of the teachers that we have already interviewed who may or may not have interviewed in a long, long time. So it takes courage to do that. And so we're hoping to offer that some of those opportunities for our current teachers who are looking for a change. And then it would, from there, we'd move to more of an open competition process, and keeping in mind that anything that's a specialized position, such as a learning support teacher, music, foods, auto body, those types of positions, those would be open competition, including some of our specialized languages, because they're a little bit more difficult to staff. So there are exceptions to that, but that's what it would look like.
Thank you, and I appreciate the excitement and the chance for continuing staff to get a chance to move in the division. It's exciting. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Any other questions for Robbie? Allison.
Hi, Robbie. Thanks for your report. So looking at the onboarding with 7 support staff and 15 teachers, how many of these are for new positions and how many of them are choosing to leave our division or moving on to different positions? And then looking further down at the 2 learning common facilitator positions, are they going elsewhere other than our division, or are they moving around in our division for those positions?
Great questions. For the most part, the onboarding would be for new staff coming in that are filling in for other positions, so temporary positions, so people who might be on leave. I don't have specific information on exactly what reason we might have individuals leaving. I am working on providing some of that information for the board at some point in time this spring. I know you had asked for that in the past. I have not forgotten, but I'll have some more generalized idea on some of those turnover rates and that type of data in the spring, either March or April.
Thank you. I appreciate that, especially as we go into budget season. I get questions from the public when they see this many new positions, thinking that we have a lot of new money. So right. It's very difficult to be having those budget conversations with people when it appears that we do have a lot of money and we're not actually struggling as much as we are struggling with our budget. So,
and I appreciate you asking, and I appreciate the question coming up each month, because sometimes it's tricky to understand what some of this means. For the most part, we aren't hiring for new positions, and so it's nice to clarify that we're covering current positions for the most part. And I will note that maybe there's a better way of me communicating that in my report.
And I'm sorry for asking it over and over. I get asked it over and over, so I think that it's just prudent of me to do so. And then, of course, I'd like to highlight the Spirit of 51 support staff recognition program. I think it is fabulous that this opportunity is there, and the amount of nominations demonstrate the amazing work that our support staff is doing in our division. So I appreciate all the work that your department is doing to organize that, and of course appreciate the work of our support staff that certainly it's not an easy time out there, and they're going above and beyond, and I look forward to the evening to be able to celebrate them together. Thank you.
Agreed. Thanks, Allison.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Robbie, for your report. And we will now move on to superintendent's reports. Mike, I'll just let you take over section 8. You don't need me to introduce every item line.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll have to keep I didn't print another agenda, so I gotta flip back and forth, but we got the technology. We're prepared to do that. Thank you, everyone. We'll go through second time through with our assurance priorities report. So I'm going to hit some of the highlights. Of course, as always, if you have questions, happy to answer them to the best of our abilities. Under stakeholder engagement, there's a number of things there. Just wanted to highlight Rochelle attending an early learning advisory committee meeting. I don't know the details of what was discussed. Where I wanted to highlight that is just that alignment with the board priority of really that successful start for students for learning, and Rochelle connecting with community partners to work together to make sure we're doing the best job that we can in terms of early learning. Also, thank you, the Human Resources Department, being out at the U of L and the Polytechnic for career fairs. We always appreciate them getting out there and connecting with prospective employees. And then the last one on their town hall, I wanted to say, I'll say it again later, but obviously a great example of stakeholder engagement, had a really good turnout, and a big shout out to Katie Guccione and all the schools that provided artwork. Katie takes that on and organizes it, collects the artwork, gets it hung up. She's got it down to a bit of a science now, and schools just are so happy to share that artwork, and it really just reminds us and grounds us in this is why we're coming together for Town Hall, because it really is to support kids in their learning and engage all stakeholders. And then resource allocation. As you know, we are getting feedback on the budget. The budget, as Christine mentioned earlier, will be announced this week, but that tends to not give us a whole bunch of information. We really don't get the information sometime into March when we get our specific profile for our school division. So we're looking forward to that and looking forward to rolling up our sleeves and getting to work, and hopefully with some additional funding. Might as well put in a plug in for that. Student growth and achievement, one of the highlights I'll hit is the curriculum support teachers and the work that they're doing on the assessment progressions. I know there was a question earlier about the support for new curriculum, and you've seen the work that Jody and Michaela are doing in terms of working on helping teachers create some of those assessments and rubrics and those sorts of things. So really appreciate that work. And if we can do some of that work, it helps us certainly assess more effectively. Then when we get into teaching and leading, responding effectively to student needs, you'll see Jackie Fletcher has been doing a deep dive into ISPs, instructional support plans, and that really is related to a lot of the work that came out of the DIPT last spring. So that's been a real focus for us. How do we improve those ISPs? How do you make them a living, breathing document that's impacting the work that we're doing on a day-to-day basis? And also just want to say a quick shout out to Jackie Fletcher, who's leaving to go to the University of Lethbridge. Certainly excited for that new opportunity, but we're going to miss her and really appreciate the work that she's doing. And I know she was emailing me on the weekend about some stuff, and I'm like, Jackie, you got like 5 days left, but she's working right to the end, and that certainly speaks to her integrity and character. And then just wanted to, as we get into professional growth, just wanted to highlight some of the work that Carmen, our English as an additional language support teacher, has been doing for professional learning. There's one here, Taming the Overwhelm, 10 positive practices for EAL instruction, and then celebrating the tiny wins. And a big part of her message is about those continuous steps. And for all of our learners, but particularly for our EAL learners, it's about just continuing to make that progress, and those small steps add up over time. And the more exposure we have to the language, then the more opportunities we have to have those little wins, and the more we keep getting those little wins, the better the impact's going to be on students. So. And then communication and collaboration, again, it's, Carmen's talking about how to include additional EAL instruction to scaffold that in just your regular curriculum planning. Simple things sometimes, like just using visuals. I was in a grade 3 class today reading to them a little bit, and I have to practice reading a book, not reading it like this and reading it like this so everyone can see the pictures, because that really helps capture kids, whether they're EAL students or or not. So just always that reminder. And then the last point under communication and collaboration, it's just about the Southern Alberta school divisions getting together and working on some technology things, seeing if they can improve their contract together, that sort of thing. Just very grateful for Southern Alberta, really does a great job with collaborating and working together, so very appreciative of that. In terms of learning supports, safe and caring culture, it's been mentioned, but we'll mention again, 155 submissions for support staff recognition. That's awesome. Under equitable learning opportunities, Rebecca working with language line interpretive services to see if we can get better access to those types of services. And then, the last point under here is Richard visiting 15 schools, completed 17 intake interviews. And what I really appreciate about Richard's work is how personalized it is. And that's so critical for families that are newcomers to Canada, that sort of thing. To have a friendly face, to someone that can sit down and help them navigate the system is just greatly, greatly appreciated. So very grateful for all the work that everyone does in those fronts. And if there's any questions on insurance priorities, I'll answer them. Otherwise, we'll keep rolling.
Craig.
On the budget feedback from the public, that's put on our website?
Yes, once we close the survey, we will do a summary and create a high-level summary that Garrett will post up. Absolutely.
And about how many people actually send in do the survey?
Right now, we're over 300.
Good.
Yeah, that's what I was told.
Is that a little above average or?
I think what did we get? We got around 400 last time we did it a couple years ago. So yeah, it's about average so far. Yeah.
Okay. If we weren't getting a lot, I was just wondering how we could improve it.
Yeah. No.
Jenny.
Just a couple of questions. Thank you for your report. In just looking at this language line interpretation service that's being piloted in some of our schools under equitable learning opportunities, just wondering if you can just share a little bit more information on that, if you have it. Just wondering, where are we piloting them, and is that an interpreter on a phone service? What is that? And just recognizing that it's a shared cost, do we have any idea how that cost is impacting our schools? Just roughly, do you have any information?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't have information on it, but I'll jot those questions down and we can definitely get that information because they're good questions. I didn't have a chance to connect with Rebecca beforehand. So go ahead, Christina.
Thank you.
I can shed a bit of light on Language Line just very quickly. Language Line is a service largely organized locally through Alberta Health Services and used by Alberta Health Services in particular. So you're probably familiar with it. Yeah, it's the same one. So, and there's been an attempt from Alberta Health Services over the last couple of years to try to make it accessible to other stakeholders who need access to interpretation. Lethbridge historically has had in-person interpretation through Lethbridge Family Services, through not just in education, but throughout the community, either fee for service or funded by settlement. And with the changes to settlement funding this year and into the coming service agreement, there's been a dramatic scale back of access to in-person interpretation. So I'm so happy to see a movement toward Language Line. It's game changers for engagement for parents and families and the success of children. So very glad to see that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I wondered if it was the same, and then how we're able to measure the success of that, recognizing that it's a pilot program. My follow-up down the road would be to ask about how successful it is and if it will be implemented beyond. That's why I wondered which schools, how many, what does that cost look like? Because I anticipate it will be a great tool.
Yeah, no, those are great questions. I've made a note of it, and I think that's a good thing to either I bring back to the board with a little more information, or, we ask Rebecca to come in and talk about it. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Andrea, then Allison.
Thank you for your report. And I just wanted to say that I was lucky enough to be at this screening of brain storm as well that Rochelle was at, and that groundbreaking work that happened at the U of L. And I was just so proud to see the little EAT children from Westminster highlighted in that movie. And I encourage anybody to see Brainstorm and see that work of Wishaw and Kolb and Gibb. How lucky that they're right at our U of L. And if there was anything that would encourage people to support early learning, my goodness, that movie highlights that. And also, you did a great job of talking about the tiny wins, but I wonder if Carmen could maybe come to a committee of the whole and talk about all the great EAL work that is happening in our division. I would love that. So, thank you.
Yeah, great idea. And let's be honest, I'm scratching the surface compared to the detail that she could provide. So yeah, no, great idea. She does very good work, and her and her team, right, in conjunction with schools and everybody. But yeah. And just so you know, she also did a segment of our admin professional learning on the Thursday before we went away for break. So that was really good. Awesome.
Alison.
Thank you. So I have a couple of questions. So the first one is around the Inclusive Education Parent Advisory Panel. Certainly talking with parents as they were preparing to do the application, which is great that they stirred conversation and people are talking about it. One of the comments that I had heard a few times is the concern around the time of the meetings, so that the meetings in the application are daytime, which is challenging for a number of families. So I had suggested that they either call and ask in regards to that, or that they apply anyway. So I do think that maybe some consideration to looking at the timing of the meetings, as not all parents have the ability to take time off work to be, if they work daytime, to be able to attend. Obviously, some parents may work in the evening and would need to take time off, but it was certainly something that had been brought to my attention by a few parents that were considering it. And I said just to apply anyway and to ask the questions. So next, with Rochelle Neville, I think, Mike, you did talk about the Early Learning Advocacy Advisory Committee piece and how important that work is. And I do believe that the work that we do together with our community and our stakeholders on that early learning piece is so important. I noticed in here it talks about the support to families that the AHS team provides. And I'm just curious, you might not know the answer, Mike, if did they talk at all about their connection to this team and their connection to schools, so that the support they're providing to families, they're also providing a team effort to our schools, or do you know anything more in regards to that?
Yeah, I wasn't at the presentation, so I don't know, but we could definitely flesh that out a little more. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. And then moving on to advocacy for education, just the bullet point with our board chair and superintendent meeting with Lethbridge Polytechnic, and just wondering if you can provide us with a bit more information of what the future collaborations are.
All right. Well, just for context, the conversation started at Team Lethbridge. We were talking about transition rates of students moving into post-secondary institutions, as well as trades programs offerings. And so there was just, it was a very casual conversation of, we should connect and see where can this go now? And so we did meet. It was a very, very preliminary meeting of what are the needs on both sides, what are the considerations to take, and what are some of the dreams and visions. And so it was a brief meeting. There is a plan to meet again, and I'll let Mike tag in here. But really the focus of that conversation was concerns around the transition rates and what are the possibilities of the division to utilize the services of the post-secondary staff to help enhance and strengthen that transition rate of students.
If you have anything to add, otherwise I'll You're good? Okay. So I would just add that I know attending the SPC, and they have had presentation from the college, from the Polytechnic, sorry, with the statistics, as well as working together with Economic Development Lethbridge and South Grow. And there is a presentation that they could provide. And I do think that it's great information that I think the whole board would, as we go into strategic planning and carry on how we ensure that our students are staying in our community and accessing the education services that are past grade 12 here. And the presentation that they could provide to us, I think, is actually phenomenal. And even if it was at a board meeting, so then the public could see that as well, I think would be important for all. So I would veer away from doing it at a committee of the whole and more so doing it at a public meeting, just because the information they have and the statistics they have on our specific Lethbridge and area students is phenomenal. So I do have more, if that's okay. Not on that topic, unless you're good. Okay. For the effective assessment, so the K-3 teachers administering, earlier in the instructional services report, it referred to the kindergarten teachers not seeing necessarily having positive feedback in regards to that. And I'm just wondering what the other grade levels had for feedback, knowing that the kindergarten teachers had concern for those January assessments.
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, I can't remember if the January assessment was everybody or not, or if it was just students that were identified at risk. I can't remember if they do that in June or January. So I don't think any of it has changed from the fall in terms of their challenges administratively. The government has talked about addressing some of those. There are mixed results on the feeling on the actual results that we get. You know, what I see as the biggest gap is, and the biggest challenge is, we do the assessment, but how does it inform instruction? So for some of our other assessments, those lead directly into instruction. And talking with many teachers, it's like, okay, we've spent all this time on this, we've done this, there's been some value in it, but really when you do that assessment, making that strong connection to instruction is critical. And we're not there yet. Those tools aren't in place. And so we're doing some of it, but we really need to be more intentional. How do we support that time? So yeah, the challenges exist. I haven't talked specifically to kindergarten students, but as I've told you, I sat for a couple hours in the fall because I wanted to see the test being administered, and I could see the strengths and weaknesses of the assessment. So I don't think that's changed radically. One of the things I will have to check, I just always forget, if we had to redo all the assessments in January, or if it was just at risk students. I can't remember. I know there's one segment where we're not doing all the students, and I wouldn't want to give you the wrong information. So see if I can find that out too.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Just with knowing it's certainly a topic that's brought up around the province when we're talking about that assessment piece. So I think knowing our local context is important. So even if it's an email back out to all the trustees with any information that you have, that it's, because this was K-3, but the information we have is just for kindergarten. So so that we have that local context. I see Jenny has her hand up. If it's about that, I have more after. But
Jenny, is it a follow-up for the same topic?
Yeah, my question was on that same topic. And Robbie just left, but it was also, my question did link into that same piece that you brought up, that in her report she touched, or sorry, no, it's your report. You're still here, we're good. You touched on the kindergarten assessments, and that was my question, is the ones being done in kindergarten, were they done in the fall, or these are the brand new, this is the first time? And so the feedback in your report says they struggled with having enough time because these are kindergarten kids. And so my question for both those assessments and these ones that we're referring to here, and you touched on it, but my question is, what does it look like receiving the results of those assessments? What does that turnaround time look like? How does that information come back to us? And how are we able to utilize that information? Because recognizing that our kindergarten teachers, I mean, this is a brand new thing, right? Recognizing that this is trying to figure out the timing for that is definitely a struggle and not surprising that it would be. My curiosity would be are the results helpful? Are we becoming informed? Are we recognizing challenges earlier or areas where there's additional support needed? Are we recognizing that earlier? Are we finding these assessments effective in any way? And then for these other ones, kind of along that same lines, is what do the results of these assessments look like? How do we receive those results, and how do they inform what we do?
Yep. Yeah, I'm happy to begin to answer that, and I'll put a little bit of a plug in for strategic planning. One of the things I'm doing is working on taking that data and being able to provide it to the board as part of our strategic planning meeting. You actually get that information in the AERR, but the way it's laid out is a little bit challenging at times. So we'll be able to provide some of that information, what it looks like in a division level the past 2 years. There's some information that I find helpful. Again, I would say the results were mixed at our schools. It depends on who you asked. Some people do find it valuable. They did glean valuable information from it. Others didn't glean quite as valuable of information. And a lot of that is context specific. So I'll give you an example. I sat with a teacher who was doing the assessment, and their school, they do, so the grade 2s stay with the same teacher in grade 3. So this teacher, or it was grade 1 or grade 2, I can't remember which, this teacher knew that student very well. So really the assessment didn't identify anything new for them. For other teachers, I've heard that they did identify some things and they found some areas that could guide their practice. So it really depends. I think in the strategic planning, you will find some of it useful from a division perspective. I think it will shed some light and provide some insight. I think there's always a question about, we're putting in all these resources into the assessment. There's real value in a teacher sitting down and spending time with a student one-on-one. I think that's always a really good thing. But there is real question about the amount of resources, how much bang do we get for our buck in the return. And I would argue, my opinion is, whether you're doing the assessment or not, how does it impact learning, and how do we support that and make sure that if these are the assessments that we have to do, how does that then inform your instruction? And we've got some other assessment tools that we've got that built in, and we built some capacity there, and now we have to really build that capacity with these new assessments as well. Fortunately, it aligns with the work that we're trying to do, because we are really looking at new curriculum and assessment and how do you relate those two things. So sorry, Andrea, I know you have some comments.
Just further to that, as you gather that information, I would just like to also know, was the release time enough for the teachers to get through that testing, given that it was one-on-one with children? So I would love to know that. And also just, I do know that it did affect teachers as they were writing report cards, that the information that they were gathering for the government didn't often align with what they were trying to gather to write their report card.
Yeah, in an ideal world, when you do an assessment, you get the feedback right away, because then you can impact instruction. When the assessment, the data has to go somewhere, be collected, and then sent back, that's not always the ideal scenario. It depends on what you're trying to do with the assessment, though, too, right? So.
Craig, is this on this subject or is this something new?
No, it's basically on the same thing.
And then we'll go back to Allison.
It's about assessment, but I noticed you said that one of Michaela is doing a data analysis for grade 6 and 9 PATs. Is that new in our division, or has that been an ongoing thing?
I would say there is analysis that is going on, but one of the directions we've had for our curriculum support teachers is we want to more effectively look at our PAT and diploma data. So, you know, my guess is that it may not be entirely new, but definitely there's been a renewed focus there because that's alignment with our assurance plan. And certainly you'll see in our strategic planning, we are going to spend a lot of time on that data. There's quite a bit of rich information there that I think will be very, very helpful for trustees.
Then.
Perfect. And that was actually my next one, was in regards to Michaela doing the data analysis session with Gilbert Patterson and LCI. I know in our discussion as a board, we've talked about the importance of some of that work also being with our elementary schools, where those we're getting our K-5 students ready when they go to do those PATs in grade 6. So I'm just curious if that data analysis support and sharing is also going to be done with the elementary, as we have talked about that as a board.
Yeah, part of what we want to do is, so when you talk about data analysis for, you know, with the grade 4 teachers look at the grade 9 data, and I know you're not suggesting that, I'm just using it as an example, not necessarily, and I know you're talking more about the grade 6, but really what you're talking about is what are we seeing in terms of curriculum objectives that we're having success in and maybe we're not, because you're right, that, I mean, kudos to the grade 6 teachers. They do a wonderful job, but a lot of that comes from the work that's been done in the elementary. So does that all align? There is work to be done there. One of the things we're working on is seeing if we can come up with a system to be a little more clear on, here's question X, here's the curriculum objective, here's how we're doing on it, here's the trends. And so that can kind of move through all elements of the system.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think just, if anything, it's just that reminder that that we're all responsible for all these kids, and it's not just those grade 6 teachers that are preparing them for those pieces. So my next and nearly final one is in regards to Jackie Fletcher. Obviously, we're going to miss her, so support her on her new journeys. But the bullet item where she does the deep dive into the ISPs, and this may be a question that will come back to us in the future, just in terms of, my question is, what did she find out when she did that deep dive? So that's why I think it is something that maybe can come in the future. I know that you said that it is in relation partly to the DIPT, which I think is great. And I think that there's lots of great work to do there. So I think just some information, if there's pieces that we as a board, as we do strategic planning and we do our planning, are there pieces in there that would be applicable to the work that we do as governors? So I think just having more information than just the deep dive, I think that's great and that's awesome. And I know that the intent is probably lots to share with families as well as schools to ensure that we're doing the best work possible. So I think just in the future, if there's more, I would love to have more. And then I will finish off with my last one, and it's right to the very end under staff wellness. So I see on staff wellness that there's one item, and I know that our division does a lot for staff wellness. And I do know, and I already spoke in regards to the Spirit of 51, and I do know that it's under safe and caring within our assurance results in here. In Robbie's report, it is titled wellness, and I'm just wondering if we could highlight a few more of the staff wellness things that we are doing in this area, so that we do more than just the staff wellbeing newsletter. I know we do amazing things. There's lots we still need to do for staff wellness, but I'm just hoping that we can add a couple more things that we are doing, or can we juggle it, or if you want to keep it under safe and caring, then that's fine. But I just think that Robbie and our team and others are doing work for staff wellness, and I think we should have those pieces in there.
I'll speak to that if that's okay. Thanks for mentioning that. We're still navigating with this new platform where we're duplicating things and how many times we want to repeat them, but we will definitely take that into consideration. And you're right, we are doing many things for staff wellness that we could highlight more frequently. Thank you.
And I respect if you want to leave it in a different section and area, but I think it should be, you do work, so let's celebrate that work.
Craig, final question, and then we'll keep
Well,
going
'cause I
with
was-
Mike's report.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out where I could ask this, but I think it comes under learning supports for active and healthy students. I know you didn't mention it, but I've run into 3 parents that were concerned about the total number of students that have tried out for basketball teams in some of our schools, like 200, and only 2 teams are chosen. And I'm wondering if there's something being done so that these children that want to play a sport get more opportunities, say in intramurals and that. But that's a concern from some of the 3 parents that I've talked to that I just ran into, that the fact that you have all these kids that want to play, but only 20 of them make the basketball team, and you have 180 wanting to play. So I just wonder how we can manage that as a more of a school problem, but how would you look at that?
Yeah, I know, and I couldn't speak specifically about each school, but I know at many of the levels they do run sort of competitive teams, but they'll also run sort of intramural teams or club teams or various levels. Certainly something that they're very aware of, and I know they try to provide as many opportunities as possible for students. Yeah.
Yep. And Mike, we'll move on to 8.2.
Okay, acknowledgements of excellence. And Craig, if you read through this, they actually do talk about their basketball program at Gilbert Patterson a little bit. And I think that's where I got that they run multiple levels of teams. So that's a nice segue into it. It's almost like we planned that. So Gilbert Patterson, one of the things that I highlighted right away is this line, the middle school, that we continue to support the middle school philosophy through a variety of opportunities. And our data in town hall, in assurance framework, consistently shows that we do, stakeholders feel like we do a good job in this area. And you just go through those points. There's volleyball, there's cross country, there's a chess tournament in December, which is awesome. I was pretty excited to see that. Band program, basketball season, Alberta's children's choir, production of Oliver, just so many things going on. And then it was pretty neat, World Rubik's Cube Championship, a student who's involved in that as well. So a great example of just providing our students with as many unique opportunities as possible. And I know Gilbert Patterson, they're very, very committed to doing that. And certainly that's pretty obvious in their submission here. And then Lakeview Elementary School, a couple things that jump out right away. Open communication, their efforts to really make sure they're reaching out and engaging members of their community. Definitely more of a emphasis on social media this year, which is obviously, there's sometimes challenges with social media, but we can use it for good as well. A number of family engagement events, and you might want to make note of those because there's a specific invite in there for trustees to join the school if you'd like. And then under social emotional learning initiatives, I know this is very important to leadership in the school, to the school community, outdoor learning, play every day. Very, very committed to that, making sure kids get outside and they're having that opportunity to play, and the positive impacts that has in a whole variety of areas in their lives. And then the last one, commitment to lifelong learning. It's very much that staff and that school community, particularly as the neighborhood changes over the years, and different families move in and out and those sorts of things. There's been a tremendous commitment to lifelong learning, and very much a school that talks about how do we take the data that we have about student learning and use that to inform our instruction. So kudos to both of those schools, and we appreciate all the work that you do. Next, we'll get into calendar events. So a couple things to add, just to make note, Tina, if you don't mind. We'll add in there March 10th to 14th. That's Substitute and Casual Appreciation Week. I believe March 10th we have Facilities Committee meeting. Also on March 10th we have Poverty Intervention Committee. March 12th we have Spirit of 51 recognition. And then March 20th is the ATA new teacher induction. And then, of course, trustees, you're always very good at adding in items that maybe we missed on this. So if there's anything we missed.
Allison.
I have March 18th working conditions at 4 p.m.
Craig.
I just can't remember when ASBA's Zone 6 meeting is in March. I think it's the 19th, isn't it?
The 19th.
Well, but just if you can make it as a trustee, it would be really appreciated.
Thanks, Mike.
You bet. And then donations and support. Yeah, I know I'm a broken record, but so grateful for all the donations and support that we get. You can just look through the bullet list here and just incredible support for our schools and the impact that it has on kids, whether it be feeding them, whether it be opening up new opportunities for them, whether it be, you know, books or clubs, that sort of thing. We're just so grateful, and the commitment and the and what we get from our community to support us is just absolutely essential to our success and our ability to support our kids and our families. So thank you. And then I'll keep rolling, assurance and strategic planning. So yes, we've got strategic planning March 6th and 7th. Every time I say we have it in March, it feels like it's a ways away, but March starts on Saturday, which I looked at my calendar and went, whoa, it's March. So just a few things that we'll be working on. So we will do a bit of a review of the assurance framework. We're going to take a little bit of a look at our quality of education results. We're going to focus in on student learning and resource allocation. Those are going to be some two big areas. And what we're going to do is we're going to be spending some time looking at data and information that we have. We have a lot of data and information through our assurance surveys, through the town hall, through some of the information that we get from the government, some of the internal information that we collect. And so we'll really be spending some time looking at that information, talking about what does that tell us? How does that align with our priorities? And then what are the things that we're really going to be focusing on this upcoming year, but also as a 3, 4, 5-year plan so we can set the direction a little bit for the division. So that's the plan. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a busy couple days, but should be a lot of work, and I'm sure your eyes will be tired because you're going to be looking at a lot of information. A couple of things I printed off and I'm like, boy, my eyes are getting bad because I'm having a hard time reading this. I can't zoom it into 125%, the normal size. So yeah, unless there's questions on that, we can move on that one. Next we'll
Sorry, Mike.
yeah.
Allison.
Just wondering when we're going to get our binders or information.
Well, I've already sent out administrator budget priorities to you. I've sent out town hall data to you. So and then I will, it's a really good question, Allison. I will send out some more information to you, but generally speaking, we won't get the binders until probably until the strategic planning, but I will send out information to you in advance, and I will send you some specific instructions on some things that you can do, but also we will make sure, so yes, there's some work you'll do in advance, but some of the work we're going to do there, because it's important that we look at the data right now and then have the talk about the priorities. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we're working on them, but there's a lot. We're probably pulling together more data this year than we ever have. I know that's been one of the interests of the board, that we need some of that information. And so not that we'll be able to pull absolutely everything, but I think there'll be a good cross section of information for you. Yeah. But I also know you like to prepare in advance and you like to get as much of that in advance as possible. So yes. I'll do my best. That's why I wanted to get some of that town hall data out to you before the last weekend. So you had 2 weekends to look at it. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll send you an email before the end of the week just saying, here's some more information. Here's some things that you can do to prepare in advance. So you can kind of go, okay, I've checked that off, check that off. Oh, I got to do that. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
bet.
I think trustees are better prepared when we have it ahead of time. That conversation is just much richer when we have
Yeah.
and review it, not just have it, but actually go through it ahead of time. So thank
Yep.
you, Mike,
Yeah, you
and your
bet.
team that's putting it all together because it's a lot of work. So
Yeah.
thank you.
You bet. Town Hall. Lost my page. First thing I want to say is thank you. There were so many people who attended Town Hall. It was very rich dialogue, and it was a cold night, and just really appreciated everybody who was there. Appreciate all the work that was done for people behind the scenes to make that happen. It's a big event for us to organize and make sure that we're all on the same page on. So really, really appreciate that. Also a big shout out. I know he doesn't like shout outs, but I'm going to give a shout out to Garrett for his work for compiling all of the Town Hall comments, and we've been working on the summaries because, like it says in here, there's over 2,000 comments to go through and try and organize and summarize and put it into something that you know helps guide us a little bit and helps give people a bit of a summary of what was discussed that night. So, yeah. And is that it for me? I think that's it.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, I have 2 items under board chair reports. The first is 9.1, community conversations. So the Board of Trustees values community engagement opportunities to hear the perspectives of our partners in education, and community conversations is an opportunity for stakeholders to connect with trustees in a casual setting to talk about topics of interest around education. And so we have 2 more events that are scheduled through the remainder of this year, excuse me. The first will be Wednesday, March 19th, and that will be between 9 and 10:30 a.m. And that is being held at the Lethbridge Fish and Game Association Hut on 9th Avenue South. And then we also have a second date of Wednesday, May the 7th, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. The location is to be determined. I will let the board know if you're able to give me feedback now. We do have access to the Fish and Game Hut for that evening as well. So I would just like to inquire if you would like to have it held in the same location as we're having it next month, or if you would prefer, sorry, I'm just tripping over my tongue, if you would prefer to hold it in a different location. Is there any feedback around that? Allison?
I'd prefer it in a different location. I certainly know the challenges of finding a location, but my preference, just so that the original intent was that it would be around the city so that it was accessible. And that would be my 2 cents, but I fully understand that it's difficult finding spots. So.
I appreciate that. I'll look for a second location, and we have this on hold should we not be able to find one, but that should be fine. And once we have that, we'll release that information. And so we can post these dates and these times on the division website, and we'll make sure to share this with division school council as well, so they can share that with their school councils. All right, my next memo, I was able to attend the ATA Local 41 meeting on February 5th. It was just really great to connect with our local members. Superintendent Mike Nightingale was there as well. He gave a presentation on budget and funding to the group, and we just had really good dialogue around the table. A couple of highlights I'm able to speak to and will share. The Provincial Executive Council is having their ATA election on March the 10th. So the current president is Jason Schilling. So that election is happening for the ATA president and the ATA vice president. And an event that they spoke to during the meeting was their political engagement seminar, which is being held in Edmonton on March 14th to 15th. And I would just like to inform the board that I've been invited to sit on a panel at that event. The purpose of that event, or for me to be there, I'll be sitting with Amanda Chapman, who's the NDP MLA, and she's the official opposition critic to services to children with disabilities and families. as well as Erin Singleton, who's a campaign specialist. And so the purpose of my attendance is to speak and share an understanding of the role of the trustee and how educators can help advocate for trustee candidates that support public education. So I'll be there on Saturday, March 15th for that event. And I would just like to, just at this time, extend my appreciation and the board's appreciation to the work, dedication, and diligence that our ATA members have in inspiring our students to learn and supporting them in their learning. And we're very appreciative of our ATA members being part of our division family. Are there any questions? All right. Moving on, tennis presentations. We do not have a presentation booked for today. So we're moving on to 11 action items. We are 5 minutes early, and I don't think do we have our LCI? Huh, you are here. Thank you. Okay. I'm just like going. Yes, please go up to the front. And oh, Christina is sharing her mic. All right. And if I can have you please, Maureen, you typically introduce these. Would you like to do that?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Scott's here from Chinook and requesting approval to take approximately 75 grade 9 to grade 12 students on an international trip to Nashville, Tennessee, from May 14th to 18th, 2026. Information regarding the educational benefits of the trip and proposed itinerary are attached, and the estimated cost per student is approximately $4,019 in Canadian funds. Thank you for coming and just giving a general overview of the trip and perhaps housing any questions that the board might have for you, Scott.
Excellent. Well, thank you for having me here, and it's great to see the great work you guys are doing. And I also want to say thank the parents that came out to support. At Chinook High School, I'm the band teacher there, and we have a very busy program with jazz music, band music, guitar, and rock and pop, probably around 200 students on average a year. We're looking to go to Nashville, May 14th to 18th, 2026, just because it's a great place with a lot of music history in jazz and guitar and rock music and country. And it would be a great opportunity for these students to see what's there in Nashville. It really is the center of music history for North America. So on the trip, we're just basically looking at, on the 14th, we'll fly out. On the 15th, we're going to go visit the Music Hall of Fame and see Elvis Presley's studio, along with a performance, and then we will do a ghost tour. We're also looking at doing like a boat trip, with a music history boat trip. I guess it's just like an evening on a boat, and also performing and checking out the Grand Ole Opry. And so that's really just the trip in general. Do you guys have any questions?
I will open it up to questions from the board. Allison.
My question, I think it's a great trip. I want to come. Nashville's awesome. I've never been, but want to go. With the dollar exchange rate, and this is a year away, can you speak a bit to any concerns or how you would negotiate the fact that the dollar is not doing so well?
Well, this trip's I think it's a great idea. It's a challenging time for maybe a trip to the States, and for certain reasons, and finances are one of them. We do have a committee of parents, and we have some plans to do some fundraising, but I assume that finances will be a challenge. It's just how it is these days, I guess, compared to years ago. I think an international trip financially was not as troublesome for parents, but that's something that we understand.
Can I just I think I was meaning more towards, we have a Canadian dollar
Yeah.
figure in here. Will it remain a Canadian dollar figure, or in a year from now, are they going to change it because the US exchange rate is different? Or we will be, like, this is a Canadian company we're purchasing through?
Yeah.
Okay, so this would be the price and it's not going to change?
Well, I think this is a good idea for me to double check with World Strides.
Okay,
I mean, they so far seem to be a really great company,
okay,
but that's a really good question for me to ask them.
yeah. I would just be concerned if the dollar goes even further worse, that the price might increase quite a bit, so. Thank you.
You can just step up to a mic and,
Sure.
yes, Vanessa,
Absolutely,
sorry.
absolutely.
Go Vanessa. Nothing like being voluntold.
Yeah, okay. So we originally looked at this trip for this spring initially. So the price could vary. This is kind of their best estimate right now. But when was that? In the fall, when we were thinking maybe we would try and do it for this year, like for instance, then the trip price actually went way down when she actually started looking at like flight prices and stuff, because they got a good deal, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to get the approval sooner, because it gives her time to look and try and find that maybe for us to help. But the money, it will stay in Canadian funds. The kids are responsible for a couple of meals, mainly just the lunches, I believe, on the trip. We've included the dinners with everything to try and help give it that, more of an overall cost. So there's not a lot of added stuff unless they want to spend money of their own. So then they have to pay the exchange on whatever they take. So I think that's all I was thinking about.
Good, excellent. Yeah.
Andrea, and then Jenny.
Thank you for planning this. I think students remember these events for the rest of their lives as they move into adulthood. I love everything you've got planned because Elvis, I mean, who wouldn't want to go see Graceland? In future trips, have you thought about exploring Canadian content, Canadian music festivals, like maybe down in Newfoundland or things like that?
That's a great idea, and maybe that's something we could think about in the future. Generally, we've looked into staying in BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, and we just kind of felt like it would be great to do an international trip because it's been about 10 years since we have done one. So, and Nashville just seems like a great place to go. So that's why we picked this year.
Jenny.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you to parents who are here to support as well. We love having people here with us. My question was, I appreciated in your write-up, you included that the trip has garnered substantial interest from both students and parents. And so just wanted to ask you a little bit more about that. Are you using parents as chaperones, or providing opportunity for parents to be involved in the trip in any way, or is this just from the sideline excitement from parents? I mean, fantastic parents.
I'm going.
The plan is, yes, to have parents chaperone. And we do have a parent committee, and it seems like every parent wants to go, I think. And so that's great to have that support. Seems like there is quite a bit of student support too. So that's a great start for this.
Can I follow up that question? With parents as chaperones, I imagine that could become complex. Are your parents as chaperones being funded by themselves or funded by the group? And do you have a process in place for determining if you have more parents that are needed, that are interested, for determining how you can navigate that?
My experience with these trips is that a certain amount of chaperones and, their kind of costs of what they're kind of, their expenses is kind of covered by the overall cost for students. And it's actually, I believe on this trip, it's factored into as 8 chaperones.
Craig?
On the chaperones, just wondering, that would be approximately 9 children or 10 per chaperone. Is that pretty close to what we do? 1 to 10? Okay.
You're going to
Okay.
answer. Can you answer in the microphone, please?
Sorry, Christine. Yes, if the numbers were to drop, it would be anticipated they'd have fewer chaperones, and so fewer would be paid for as well, which would hopefully also be adjusted in the student price.
But it is within our
Yep.
our policy. And the other 2 questions I have is the student performance and then the workshop. Will all the students be able to perform at that at 4:30 on Friday?
Yes, I hope to. Basically, whoever signs up, I guess we'll look at who signs up and we'll
Okay.
try to put together a group to perform for the trip. With it being, all, like jazz, band, guitar, rock and pop, with all the students being invited, we'll have to find something that we could all play together.
Okay. And then the music workshop, that would be catered to each of the students. Like your jazz group would have a workshop and your all that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm looking for a motion. Christina. Oh, sorry. Craig?
I move that the Chinook High School trip to Nashville, Tennessee in May of 2026 be approved by the board on the condition that all division policies and procedures are strictly followed, and with the understanding that future travel advisories and/or vaccination requirements that may affect the trip's ability to proceed.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Have a great trip.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Take care. All right, we're going to move on to 11.2, high school locally developed courses. Morag.
I know how much the board enjoys this process, and so I just thought I would bring 3 more to the table. In all joking aside, apologies, sometimes there are oversights. We really do intend on approving these in a group. And one of the 3 of them here need to be approved. We did get permission from Alberta Education to bring this back to the board. And we do need these approved ASAP because they are currently being subscribed to in our schools. And so, yes, just Alberta Education, of course, requires that all locally developed senior high courses be authorized for use by the Board of Trustees. We ask the Board of Trustees to authorize the use of the following locally developed courses in all division high schools to enhance program offerings to students. Yes, and so they are in front of you to review. And if you have any questions, I will attempt to answer any questions you might have. Otherwise, we most certainly would appreciate the authorization of these courses that are currently in place.
Thank you, Morag. Craig.
Are these 3 courses currently being taught?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess just a comment, but it would be nice maybe on some of these if we got an outline of what was the outcomes of these programs so that we can make a little better decision as far as approving these programs. But if they're already being taught, I'm fine with it. But in the future, it would be nice just to get a little more information. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Jenny.
If you can just lend a little bit of understanding on the process for newly developed accredited courses. I know that they need to be approved by our board and that there's also a process with Alberta Education. Have these courses gone through that process with Alberta Education?
So I am familiar in talking with Matthew Beckering, specifically with religious studies, Christian studies. That course is currently being offered with Tabor Christian, so they have already had locally developed course approval from Alberta Education. And then Leather Technologies, I'm unfamiliar with currently. I do know it is being offered though. So I don't know if I can provide any more information to you other than that at this juncture, Jenny.
Sorry, Jenny.
Sorry, just speaking to process, typically which one happens first, the board or Alberta Education approval in typical process for approving newly created curriculum, accredited curriculum? Is that typically run through Alberta Education and then brought to the board? Or if we're unsure if a few of these have gone through that Alberta Education process, is that something that can still happen after our board has approved it?
So locally developed courses are developed at the school site or shared within our schools, and then it is brought to the board to be approved, which then goes to Alberta Education, okay? And very often the courses that we provide that are locally developed have already been approved by Alberta Education in other divisions, if that makes any sense, okay?
Yeah.
Christina.
I'd like to move that we authorize the use of the following locally developed courses in all division high schools to enhance program offerings for the years indicated. Number one, acquisition of LDC 1911 Leather Technologies 15 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2027. Do you want to do one at a time?
Do high school need to be one at a time? Okay, yes, finish that one. All right. Any further questions? May I see Tyler, please? Thank you. Those in favor? And that's carried.
I further move the acquisition of LDC 1775 Religious Studies, Christian Studies 15 for 3 credits until August 31, 2027.
Thank you. Any questions? Those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. All right, we will move forward to 11.3, Trustee Code of Conduct first reading. This first reading was tabled from January's meeting to come. The board wanted some more time spent on this policy prior to bringing it to first meeting. And so as a board, we discussed it at our February committee of the whole. We spent a significant amount of time, about 90 minutes, with our lawyer, Yvonne Prefontaine, asking questions and trying to gain a deeper understanding of implications of including and discluding items within this code of conduct. So the policy presented today is the outcome of board conversation and legal guidance, and the board's collectively voted or consented to what was going to be included in the draft that's presented for you today. So as stated in the memo, this has been a process that's been going on for almost 2 years now. At the public meeting of the Board of Trustees held on May 23, 2023, Trustees Christina Larkin as well as myself were tasked to work to update Policy 202.1, the Trustee Code of Conduct, along with the Appendix 202.1A, and then bring that work to the Policy Advisory Committee in September. And then at the public meeting of the Board of Trustees held on May 28, 2024, the following motion was carried: that the board direct the policy consultant to prioritize the amending of Policy 202.1, Trustee Code of Conduct, and Policy 202.1A Appendix, Trustee Code of Conduct, to bring the board in compliance with legislation. So our board has been working with Brian Callahan, our consultant, since September to align this policy with the above legislation. And so the process since September has included consultant presentation, board deliberation. and seeking legal feedback and guidance. And so I present this to you, and I move that the board accept the following motion, that the first reading of the draft trustee code of conduct policy be accepted as presented. And so I will open this up for debate. And Tina, may I see Tyler, please? Thank you. Are there any comments? Jenny?
I appreciate the opportunity for us to speak to this and to have taken that added time to work on this and to get it to a place where we are comfortable with what we have. That being said, for myself, I am still not in a place where I find the intent of this policy to represent what I hope for it to include. And so for myself, I'm looking for a policy that is a little bit more succinct in the information that it contains and has a more effective delineation of what belongs in code of conduct, what belongs in a policy about the role of a board, of a trustee, what belongs in procedure. And when I read through this, there's things that I recognize to be perhaps more effective encapsulated in other places. And my hope is that we could have a code of conduct that speaks directly to conduct and further information and understanding that is valuable, but perhaps not most effectively found in this code of conduct, that it can be reorganized to a more appropriate space. And so when I read through this, there's several spaces that I recognize things that I think that would be more effective found in some of these other policies or procedures. And I've spent quite some time looking at other policies across the province and have appreciated all of the work. You outlined it very well. We've put in a lot of hours and pulled in consultation and expertise. And so it's been a great learning opportunity and process for us. And I think we've done good work. The intention of what is before me doesn't encapsulate what I'm looking for at this time. And so it won't have my support today.
Thank you, Jenny. Anyone else? Allison?
I'm in agreement with Jenny.
Sorry, Allison, can you just move the mic closer?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm in agreement with Jenny that she spoke a lot of the same words that I had intended to speak, in that I don't feel that this code of conduct it goes far beyond what it would bring us into compliance with legislation, and it contains parts that could be in other portions of our policy documentation. There's pieces as well for me that are missing and not in there that need to be. I know last night Alberta School Boards Association, which we're legislated to be a member of, provided a session on code of conduct. And there was a number of items from that I think need to be looked at and incorporated, including an integrity commissioner. When I look through this, and some of the pieces in here highlight things that would be done, my question continuously through my notes is who would be doing that? And I think adding different parts need to be in here that would bring us into compliance with legislation, but this goes far beyond what is in legislation and the requirement. And it has things in here that should be in other portions of the policy. As with Jenny, I will not be supporting this moving forward.
Thank you, Allison. Craig?
Yeah, in looking at this, My question is, does this policy dissuade people from running for office? Because of its length and its, as I would put it, it's almost like 10 commandments. Thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do this. And do we want that for adults, or do we want to have a more positive code of conduct? And I've looked at a couple of them. I've looked at 4 or 5, and some of them are 12 and 13 pages long, which to me is just unacceptable. I've looked at 2 others that are 4 pages, and then they have an appendix, which takes care of the stuff that is on the end part of our thing about if someone is brought forward on a code of conduct, this is how you deal with it. First of all, I think we need to separate them so that our code of conduct is shorter, and then our appendix explains how to do it. And I would agree with Allison and Jenny that there's some stuff here that could be part of our role of a trustee or the role of the board. And so until we can shorten it and separate it into a code of conduct and an appendix, I cannot support it right now.
Thank you, Craig. Anyone else? Christina.
Thank you. For me, I will be supporting the first reading, and I would strongly encourage us to move this ahead. A first reading in the process of Robert's Rules is really about putting this motion on the table and making sure that we can have a vigorous debate in second reading to ensure that any amendments, changes, hearing that there's desired changes, things to move to other policies can happen. At this stage, we're not even able to have that discussion in a public setting, which I think is critical for accountability of the board and our process. I'm looking forward to having that conversation about what needs to stay and what needs to go in public, and we can't do that until we've had first reading. I am extremely interested in getting this through, at least first reading as it stands, because we have invested a great deal of time and energy of both our executive and the board and board resources and division resources into having this generated. We've had significant legal consultation. We've had significant consultation from policy consultants that this board has selected. And at this point, I'm very frustrated with the use of these resources without a meaningful outcome. There's been some concern said about, does this dissuade, or is this perhaps not the tone we want, or is this not the right policy? Trusteeship is public service, which should always be held to the highest level of rigorous accountability, which we hold our entire division to. We require a great deal of reports from every single level of staff, volunteer, even children in our division, and trustees are only allowed to hold each other accountable. We are the only last stop. This is it. So this is the work that we have to be doing to hold each other accountable. And certainly these type of documents are worst case scenario. We don't want these types of things to happen. And in almost every division, they do not, right? While there's legislation guiding the requirements of trustees in terms of like our legal obligations, our mandates, things like this, and certainly the public always have their say, it is incumbent on trustees to hold one another accountable through documents such as this. And to me, this is the type of document that we agreed to move forward on when we took on this policy project. I was publicly not in favor when we voted for doing the policy project because I had a sense that we would be using a lot of resources that would otherwise be used in other ways that I was more in favor of. But certainly we voted for it. We're on board. And to me, this is the follow through. We've had this conversation now for many months. First reading, which is what we're looking at today, is not about do we agree wholeheartedly with this policy as it stands. It's are we willing to take the next step so we can have that debate. I'm looking forward to the debate. I'm looking forward to creating a code of conduct that our board feels is meaningful and that we can present to the public, and that we can provide a sense of what the obligations are for trustees in the next election. there are many privileges of this role. We have the beautiful opportunity to participate in the school division in many wonderful ways. And with that comes a great deal of public responsibility, which we as trustees are responsible to hold each other to account for. So with that, I'm very in favor of moving this forward through at least first reading. This is not a commitment that I am wholly in favor of all of these words or in this exact structure. This has to go through in first reading, in my opinion, so I will be in favor.
Thank you. Andrea?
I too would be in favor of moving this through first reading. I think when you think about being a trustee, I think these guidelines are very clear. I would find it really helpful reading through all of this to know if I would want to be a trustee or not. And so I also really appreciated sitting with legal and having them talk about why we need things in this policy and things that we don't need. And so I would be in favor of moving this through first reading.
Thank you, Andrea. Tyler?
I agree with Christina, and we need to move this policy forward. We've had hours of consultation on this, and it's just first reading. I have no problem with people bringing forward amendments that they would like to see in the policy, or anything else going that for however they want it worded. That's great, but we have to have a starting point in order to, we have to have something on the books in order to be able to amend something going forward. We need a document. So this is just first reading. There's still 2 more tries to get through anything anyone wants to make for changes. I think this is a great starting point. It's been through legal. It's been done with a policy consultant, which, by the way, I'm just at this point not in favor of spending any more money on in regard to this policy. So I think this is the good bones of a policy to get going. And then over the next 2 readings, I'm more than happy to entertain any changes or amendments that people want to bring forward. But we have to have a starting point, and this is that starting point, so I'll be voting in favor.
Thank you, Tyler. Can we turn the captions on? Just for future. All right. Was everybody able to understand, Tyler? I understood. Okay. All right. Thank you. Are there any other comments before I close? Okay. I want us to be a board that welcomes accountability. And I know there's debate going back and forth of how succinct this policy should be. Should it be a longer version? Should it be a shorter version? And we have gone through both. As a board, we've been presented both by our policy consultant. Throughout this process, we have sought legal advice, and that was at the will of the board to seek legal advice for perspective and feedback and guidance. And the legal perspective was to have a longer, more delineated, specific policy that strengthens and lowers the risk of our board should there be litigation. I think I am challenged when, and open to the debate and conversation, but I'm challenged when the board has sought legal advice and we've been given that advice and we're not necessarily leaning into that advice and wanting something different. I can appreciate the concern around tone of the code of conduct and, that desire for us to have a more positive outlook on what the role of the trustee is. I think being a trustee is a privilege. What we can do is a privilege. Having a voice and a place to impact students and their learning is a privilege. To be a voice in our community is a privilege. And I think with that is significant responsibility to act appropriately, professionally, and with integrity and respect. And I think a code of conduct defines those parameters and what that looks like. And so when there's a comment that happened today around we just want a more positive positive voice of what the role of a trustee is. That also happens in our role of trustee policy. That's not missing from our policy framework. This is the code of conduct as a standalone. And we've spoken with our consultant and we've spoken with legal regarding the duality of messages. And it's just really important for the information within the code of conduct to be complete so people aren't dancing around the full policy framework looking for all of the answers. I think regarding this policy dissuading people from running for office, I think people need to go into anything with eyes wide open. And a very clear code of conduct policy allows people to go in with eyes wide open. There's nothing wrong with saying, oh, these aren't appropriate behaviors. Oh, these are things I should be aware of. I don't see that being a detriment to somebody running. It gives clear parameters, clear as kind. First reading is a vote to support the intent. Do you intend to have a code of conduct? Second and third reading are for vigorous public debate. There's room for continued amendments. We can continue as a board to have the conversation around a short version, a long version. What are things that should and could be captured in other policies? But today, I strongly support the board to support the first reading and to support moving forward with a code of conduct. We've been doing this work since September. We've put a lot of money into our consultant. We've put money into our legal guidance. And I am with Christina in that I'm frustrated that we haven't resulted in something yet and had a positive outcome. And we just seem to be spinning in circles as a board. And so I would encourage a vote. I am supporting first reading, but I would encourage board members to vote through the first reading so that we can continue the good work on this. So the motion is out, and I will ask those in favor. And those opposed? Okay. Thank you. That is carried 4-3. To find my page. Oh, here it is. Okay. Now we will move on to 11.4, policy 607.4, responsible use of technology. Yeah, Christina, sorry. I've called the name.
Thank you. Sorry about that, just trying to find it in my notes here. So the Policy Advisory Committee has two policies available for review by the board, Policy 607.4 and Policy 800.1. So 607.4, responsible use of technology, was reviewed by a Policy Advisory Committee, did receive public feedback, was reviewed a second time by a Policy Advisory Committee, and is now before you. The notes and changes are indicated. And so I guess I would move to accept the policy as presented and welcome any conversation and a vote.
Thank you. Andrea.
I would like clarification on the new 1.7. Has that all been added in? My concern is that I know there are schools that when they have special events, they definitely put out on a Facebook page or a tweet pictures of things that have happened in their school that day. And it says, abstaining from recording in schools or school activities and sharing of videos and or photos without explicit consent, with the exception of photos and recordings made at public events. But not everything that happens in schools are public events. And I know, so I just wondered if that's a whole new statement or how to clarify that.
Yeah, so on, we have, we do what we call media consents at the beginning of the year that has consent to, for when you're having an activity in a school that's not a public event, do we have consent to use your child's image, photo, that sort of thing within that? Because sometimes people don't want to and they'll say, no, I don't consent. So that's that's the consent. When it's a public event, so an event where we're inviting parents to a Christmas concert, for example. That is a public event. Anybody can come into it. It's public. That is the exception where people could take photos and video because you can't control it. And so that's where you get the exception too. But there's lots of activities that happen in classrooms where we need to make sure if you're photographing or if you're photographing or videotaping, that there's been consent of the children that are in there, right, from their parents or guardians. An example, when Garrett goes in to take some photos, the first thing we say, is there anybody in here who's not consented to that? We make sure they're either excluded or we make sure their image is not in the photo when it's produced publicly.
So that would not prevent those things happening. Okay, I just wanted clarification because the blue I thought was all new. Okay, thanks.
That's a good question. Yes, Christina.
And just for the new point, it's actually moved from what was 6 up. There was some like fairly significant rearranging to try to make this more clear because there was some repetition, and just because policies have changed over the years, it needed to be reformatted, which I'm also realizing there's a double set of number 1s. So I will make a friendly amendment to myself. Is that allowed? Where it says teachers are responsible for being renumbered from there down to 2 and then 3, etc. So section 1 will be all users, section 2 teachers, and so forth. Apologies. We keep Kelsey very busy in those meetings with renumbering.
Craig.
This seems more like a procedure than a policy, is one comment. But if you're going to indicate all users, including but not limited to, you should probably add trustees to it.
Accepted as friendly. Would you like that anywhere specific?
Well, just under 1, all users, including but not limited to students, staff, parents, guardians, trustees.
Perfect. So I will accept it as a friendly amendment to add trustees between parents/guardians and volunteers.
Thank you, Craig. May I see Tyler, please? Allison.
On the 1.7, it says abstaining from recording in schools or school activities. Should it be or on school activities or at school activities? I feel like we're missing a word that should be in there for what about school activities.
Would at be satisfactory? Or during
Would probably be better. So it could be a field trip away from
in
a
schools
school.
or during school activities. Friendly amendment accepted.
And then it says the piece around schools. What about any other division property?
Which one are you on? Sorry, Allison.
The same one.
I think school activities, when you say or school activities could be in on-site, off-site. I think you're covered there.
Do you feel like it is currently not covering school property that is not, or division property that is not a school?
I often get asked like for DSC meetings being recorded. So is that considered under there or would that be something else? So knowing that I have that question.
Is DSC a division, like, or do we own DSC? Do you know what I mean? Or like, I believe that DSC is like a separate entity that we work with, right?
No, we have a terms of reference that
That's ours.
They approve the terms of reference, but it comes to us. They wouldn't exist if we weren't here.
Just to clarify, are you asking if, if we're recording a DSC meeting, for example, it's on Teams or whatever, does it run afoul of this policy, the way it is, 1.7? Is that what you're asking? Or am I misreading it?
Not if it runs afoul. I'm just wondering where it would, when I got asked that question, where would it apply for other division properties other than a school?
I would consider it under public events associated with school activities. We could change it to division activities. Because to me, like a council meeting is a public event.
Yeah, no, I'm just, when you say public event, so a school council meeting, there's membership. School council parents of the school are the members. It's not open to the public. So I think that that's a different discussion if that's a public.
Can public members not attend a school council?
Every school council has their own bylaws. And if you look at the school council regulation and the act, it states that community members can be a part of a school council, but it would be in the school council's, whatever, if they have a bylaw or operating procedures, right? So it's not for us to determine if that's a public meeting or not. It is certainly every member of that school community is a member, it can be a member of school council unless they have representative model. But I think to make the assumption that it's a public meeting is not accurate, would be my concern.
Do you have a recommendation?
I think back to the 1.7, just this schools or division property or division something, like I think it's
Schools, division property, or during school activities.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, I think you put or division property. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. Okay. So friendly amendment 1.7, comma, following schools, division property, comma, or school activities. Perfect. Thank you.
Any other comments? May I see Tyler, please? Thanks, Tina. Appreciate it. All right, seeing none, the motion is on the floor. All of those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And we'll move on to policy 800.1, signing authority policy.
Thank you. So policy 800.1 is before you with amendments. This was discussed by Policy Advisory Committee, went for public consultation as well as internal to the division consultation to ensure that it met administrative requirements and what is real currently. For example, you'll see that we've crossed out a signature plate, which is no longer a thing. So this is before you. And so I would move to accept as presented.
Thank you. Any comments? Okay, seeing none, those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. And thank you to the Policy Advisory Committee for all of your work moving through these. All right, we now move on to 11.6 Childcare Partnership. Christine.
Thank you. Apologize, there's no memo in the board package as this has been, is a timely, is it, oh, she's good, timely matter. So I wanted to bring this forward.
Sorry, I know what she was saying. Yes, we're just going to pause. So Christina Larkin, would you like to address first?
I just wanted to declare that I have a conflict of interest with this item, so I'd like to step out.
You have the, it's just the memo I had in the income. Yeah, so we've noted that Christina Larka is excused herself from the meeting at 4:40. Okay, so we had, back when we were designing Galbraith, or talking about design of Galbraith Elementary, before we were approved for a modernization, the community engagement conversation led to, wouldn't it be great to have a childcare facility alongside Galbraith Elementary School and a modernization. When we were funded for, approved to proceed to plan to design and eventually to construction with the modernization of Galbraith Elementary School, it was decided that the government would not fund a childcare facility with the modernization. 2 weeks ago, the government of Alberta announced a initiative called the Building Blocks Capital Grant that provides up to, for major capital projects, up to $30,000 per childcare space for licensed childcare holders to build childcare facilities. The YMCA, who we partner with on a number of initiatives and who is a licensed childcare organization, and was interested in the fact that we were interested in a childcare facility with the Galbraith modernization, came to us, and we were about to come to them as well to say, hey, can we do this, and apply for the grant, see if we can get the grant for this capital funding, and build a daycare alongside the Galbraith modernization project. For context, we have been we're in pre-design right now with Galbraith, and we have been holding space as part of that design for a potential future, whether it's in the near future or down the road, for a childcare facility. So YMCA is interested in applying for this grant as a licensed childcare facility. They need Lethbridge School Division as the title holder to the land, as well as the organization that is the connection with Alberta Infrastructure Building, undertaking the modernization as a partner. And so if the board is so interested, we would collaborate with Alberta Education, with the YMCA to apply for the grant, and develop a memorandum of agreement that would sign that said should they receive the grant and have all the funding available to commit to the cost of constructing, then we would go forward with that and work with Alberta Infrastructure and Alberta Education on building that facility with the Galbraith modernization. What happens in this case is the YMCA would receive the grant and any other funds that they would need to do the construction, create the requirements for the childcare space. We receive the funding commitment, and then much like what we do when the city of Lethbridge commits to upsizing the gym, we then pass on that money to Alberta Education and Infrastructure as that is undertaken as part of the modernization. And so we're kind of the conduit. And then what we would do is we then create what we call a lease agreement, and we lease the space back to the YMCA over a 20-year period. So essentially, their funding contribution is like a prepayment of 20 years of lease payments. And we work out a lease agreement and, of course, agreement for the cost of doing utilities and caretaking, or they could do their own caretaking, and it depends on the agreement. We've done this before. It sounds complicated, but we've actually done this before. We've done this with the Family Center when we built Colbanks Elementary School, and when it opened in 2017, the Family Center paid for the construction of the space that was attached to Colbanks Elementary School, and we have leased that back to them. And so we have a lease agreement that's in place for that. So this is not like this. Now, of course, the first step is we need to get funding. And so what we're seeking for here is that you're authorizing administration to seek approval from Alberta Education to include the childcare facility within the scope of the Galbraith Elementary School modernization. And then you further authorize administration to sign a memorandum agreement with the YMCA for the construction of a licensed childcare facility contingent upon the YMCA receiving the Building Blocks Capital Grant for the project and committing to fund all construction costs in exchange for a long-term lease agreement with the school division. And so that's what we be seeking. I do know I have approached Alberta Infrastructure as well as Alberta Education, and they are supportive of us including a childcare facility that is funded by the YMCA in this project. Sorry, done.
Thank you, Christine. I will open this up for discussion. Andrea.
I'm really excited for this opportunity for the Galbraith community, especially for kindergarten children to move seamlessly from their kindergarten class at Galbraith into care and vice versa in the afternoon. And I just wonder if you could speak to the facility not running a kindergarten program, as that would be in conflict with our school kindergarten program.
Right, this facility would be a childcare facility and not a kindergarten, well, not an educational program facility. So they would not, they'd be only providing that play care, play and learn care that they would be providing when students are not in kindergarten. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Craig.
Yeah, probably two questions. One is that this Building Blocks has to be a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, in order to apply for the grant, you have to be a nonprofit organization. You can be a school board to apply too, but you have to be a licensed childcare provider. That's the other caveat.
Yeah,
we're not a licensed childcare provider.
And the YMCA is.
The YMCA is, yes.
And exactly. the other probably question is, this has followed the correct way of procurement in the province. Because we didn't ask for it, someone approached us.
Yeah, we're not paying to build it and then have a provider run it. The provider's paying for it, and we're just doing a long-term lease back. Yeah.
Any other questions? Allison.
I don't have questions specifically. I do certainly have some comments. I think it's fabulous that we have a childcare facility that is looking at providing this service to our families. I think that when we look at our enrollment and the decline over last little bit, I think that having a daycare, childcare facility within one of our school properties typically leads to those families continuing on in that school facility. I think that that's great and fabulous. Hearing from the CEO of the YMCA talking about the support that they have found with working with coal banks and how those students that they come to know the services of YMCA and believe and trust them and continue on, and how awesome that is for the student, the child's development, as well as for the family as a whole. So I do think that is great for us to have this opportunity. My concerns certainly come around the piece around transparency, as well as providing information to our public. This information wasn't included. This is certainly the first time that it's being provided to our public to have any information about this. I know that we'd like to work with our community and our stakeholders, and I think having opportunity for others to have opportunities is great and wonderful as well. I know that back when we looked at, when we first had these conversations with Galbraith in August of 2023, our division did approach the YMCA, and I just think that having that transparency out there is important. And my concern is certainly around process, that there are other agencies that would fit the same bill that may want to have these same opportunities, and I certainly would encourage them to come forward with any opportunities for us to work together with community moving forward. And I do hope that moving forward, we ensure that process is there and that information is provided to our public. And yeah, I think that it is a great opportunity for our youth and our families, but I think process needs to be important in our division as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Jenny.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments about the opportunity here and share the same sentiment, and anything that supports the needs of our community, but especially things that align with what we're doing in education and further support our work, we are certainly excited about and appreciate. I do have a couple of thoughts and comments on this. Something along the lines with what was just shared by Trustee Allison. This having been an addition to the agenda, I'm wondering if some documentation, a memorandum of some type can be added to our agenda package for the public to be able to reference the information. And then also, for myself, of course, I'm excited about this. It is a little bit of a challenge for me because information was provided verbally and a proposal, information that was proposed to us for myself, that understanding what it is that we're agreeing to and being able to look at the details and consider things with due diligence. For me, that includes access to the information and being able to refer back to it. And so that would be my request for the future, is to have that ability to feel reassured that I'm doing my due diligence in weighing things out appropriately and striving to do what is best for our division. A couple other thoughts, just looking at the recommended motion that could be made by the board in attachment to this. I just wanted to ask the board's opinion on, I'm wondering at the end of it, we have the wording, which first of all, thank you for the proposed motion. Those are always appreciated. But the wording that the YMCA received the building blocks capital grant for the project and committing to fund all construction costs in exchange for a long-term lease. I'm wondering if we are limiting ourselves by using the words all construction costs, and if that needs to be more reflective of the YMCA will be responsible for all additional costs incurred as a result of the partnership and joint initiative in planning, building, and maintaining the additional space for providing childcare. And then also, if we need to include that our contract will ensure provision of care to kindergarten age children, because I know that was a very important element to this board. And maybe that doesn't need to be in a motion. Maybe that just, I don't know where that fits. But also, if we're able to add in something along the lines of the spaces in this childcare facility, being able to allow a preferential access to the families who have students attending Galbraith, if we need to add that into the motion, or if that belongs somewhere else. I did write out something I can propose, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate to be in the motion or not. So I would seek feedback before I propose it.
Yeah, okay, so Jenny has presented that, and I'll open up discussion. Are you formally amending the motion, or are you?
I'm not trying to turn a motion into a
I
contract.
don't know how detailed you want to get into.
And so that's why I'm questioning that.
So the memorandum of agreement, first of all, to get a funding commitment. So it's, if you get the funding, then we will enter into a long-term lease. The long-term lease, if the commitment is there, if they get the funding, then we do an actual detailed funding commitment letter and an agreement, as well as a lease agreement. And that's where we could stipulate, you stipulate that this is, the program can't include this and this. So there's various places you could do it. I don't know if you need to do it in this motion. I will just make sure it happens. But if you want to have it in a motion, that's up to you. It gets very complicated. So.
Craig.
Yeah, I think that the number one thing is just getting the memorandum of agreement to cover the construction costs. And then and I agree with Christine Lee that then after they get the funding and as the building's completed, we will develop a very fine-tuned lease that it explains the extra costs that they'll cover, what we will do, and where the attendance boundaries are for that daycare. So I'm fine with that, but I do appreciate Jenny's comments because that's an important aspect, but that comes after the agreement. And if we don't have a memorandum, then it's all moot.
Anyone else? Allison?
I think I struggle with the fact that we have nothing in writing in regards to this. When you talk about after it's constructed, the trustees that sit around this table may or may not be on this board. Our secretary treasurer is leaving our division at the end of this school year. I think that there is, without information, without an agenda item with this information in it, I think that we are leaving ourselves at huge risk without having some documentation of what we're looking for, what we're wanting. I hear from other trustees in regards to the piece around kindergarten. I hear from Craig about boundary piece, but none of those things are going to go forward with this motion the way that it's written, without additional information, without a memo in our board package that says anything about this project. It concerns me. As a governor, it concerns me.
Anyone else? Jenny?
I'll just put it out there that I share that same discomfort. But recognize the limited time frame on this and the opportunity at hand. But I am struggling because of process and not feeling like I've had what is needed to do my role efficiently or effectively or with full diligence. And having requested information and not received it. But I would propose an amendment. Well, we haven't even made the motion, so.
So you can make a motion with what you want.
I'm not sure if discussion is finished before. I don't want to cut off discussion, so I'll make the motion after.
Tyler's hand is up, and so I'm going to call on Tyler first. Thank you.
At this point, this is just, well, maybe if I listen, if you can hear this better. At this point, this is just a partnership to see if we can get funding. So that's what we're trying to do at this point, is just partner to get funding. We don't get the funding, this is going nowhere, so there's no need to have any details. If we do get the funding, then we lay out the framework of how this is going to work and how it's going to happen. This is not something that if we get the funding tomorrow that it's running and going and we're in an agreement or anything else. So at this point, that's all we're trying to do. All we're trying to do is say, are we interested in having a partnership with the YMCA at Galbraith for this? And if we are, we vote for it. And then we work out the details if and when funding comes through and there are detailed plans drawn up for how this will be set up at Galbraith.
Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate that. Andrea?
Will we get an answer to this within our tenure from the government for this funding?
Oh yeah, because we have to submit before March 15th. And to tell you the truth, it used to be March 31st and they've changed the date. And so you're supposed to check the website. So we're trying to get this in, like the YMCA wants to get it in quickly if this is approved, to get the ball rolling to see if we can even get the grant. And Tyler's right. If we don't get the grant, it doesn't matter. Once we get the grant, then we say, okay. And then the YMCA also has to say, can we afford this? Because we haven't hemmed down the exact cost yet. We've given them a ballpark, but we're trying to give them an exact cost. Once we get closer to that, then they'll say, okay, yes, we can commit. And then till they commit, then we have to do, then that's when we start to do all the legal details, because then we're going down that path.
And one more clarifying question. This information has been out there for agencies for some time, and we have not been approached by any other agencies. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yes. May I put the motion on the floor?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Put the motion.
Oh, no? Okay.
I would like the motion first. Yeah, thank you, Craig.
Okay. I move that the board authorizes administration to seek approval from Alberta Education to include a child care facility within the scope of the Galbraith Elementary School modernization. Further, authorize the administration to sign a memorandum of agreement with the YMCA for the construction of a licensed child care facility, contingent upon the YMCA receiving the building blocks capital grant for the project and committing to fund all construction costs in exchange for a long-term lease agreement with the school division. I would like to say to fund all additional construction costs.
Thank you. Craig?
Yeah, now is this, one question for Christine Lee and then a comment. Was this very similar to how the Coalbanks Family Center was done?
Yes, with the family center, what they did is they did a memorandum of agreement for a funding commitment. And then once they had the funding commitment, they started construction and whatnot. And then near to the end of construction, when it was open, we signed a long-term lease with the lease terms and conditions. But you put in your memorandum, we plan to do a 20-year lease. And I mean, and you can say that also, I can put into the memorandum will be a lease, but also the conditions will be the scope of, we can put the scope of the programming in there as well.
So yeah. I guess my comment further to that is we have people that we pay a good salary to make decisions that are operational, which is sort of an operation. I mean, it intertwines, but, and I'm sure we will see the memorandum agreement and approve that as a Board of Governors and the lease, basically. But my thing is that it's just saying we would like to have a memorandum agreement. Time is short, and I trust our senior officials to hear what the board has said and to make sure they convey our feelings about it to the YMCA.
Thank you, Craig. Christine, yeah.
The memorandum of agreement, I will sign with them. I sign agreements on the board. This is signed so it can go with the grant application. Without it, we won't get the grant. They need to know that we're going to give them a long-term lease because they technically are supposed to have a lease in order to apply. So the memorandum will say the division will give you a lease subject to you getting the grant. So it's not something, we don't usually bring leases or memorandums to you. Certainly, I can definitely show it to you, but I won't be bringing it to a board meeting because that's just not our practice or policy, but I can certainly show it to you.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Are there any other comments? I'm excited about this opportunity. I think as a board, we've been talking about, we value our community partners. And as a board, we've been talking about our core business is education. And we need to lean into those agencies to do what they specialize in. We are not a daycare provider. However, students under our care utilize daycare services. And I think, when we talk about transitioning from early childhood education into elementary, when we talk to families and hear the challenges that they have in having to leave work and pick up their children from half-day kindergarten, this is a really beautiful solution that would enhance a community school. And we spoke about it a couple of years ago as a board when we talked about the Galbraith modernization. And so I think this is a really incredible opportunity. Yes, there is risk, but I think there's also incredible opportunity for our division as well as our community. One thing I do want to address from one of the comments made, there was concern mentioned around transparency and process. And I think context is really important. I think it's important to know that this information came out the beginning of this month. This hasn't been something that's been brewing for months, and we have a staff member that hasn't been communicating. We discussed this at our committee of the whole meeting a week and a half ago. And we've been able to speak with the CEO and the senior manager of the YMCA because we had questions. And so I think as far as the tight timeline of the process, it wasn't ideal for our executive to have to push this through so quickly. It's an unfortunate ask from Alberta Education for this process to move through so quickly, because this does require a lot of consultation, a lot of consideration. But in the context that what we have, I do want to say thank you for the work that you've done, for the advocating for our division, and just helping us to see this as clearly as possible. It is appreciated, and allowing us to ask our questions earlier today. And so the motion is on the floor, and I see no other hands. Jenny.
I'm wondering if maybe we can briefly step in camera. Just, I have a few questions. I want to clarify process, and I would feel more comfortable doing that, knowing that we're in an appropriate setting for it.
Yeah. Can we have a member of the public here for public forum? Would the board welcome our public forum time prior to voting to go in camera? I'm looking around the table for nods. At the screen, there's a nod. Excellent. Okay, so we will pause this. Thank you. And we will come back to this, and I would welcome our member of the public to step up to the front, and she can just have Christina's microphone even. Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, that works.
Okay, wonderful. Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for having this public forum space. I'm grateful to be here this evening.
Thank you. And before you begin, can I have you introduce yourself, please?
Certainly, yes. My name is Meg Fester, and I sit on the district council as well as the SJF parent council.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Meg. Thank you for joining us and taking the time to join the public forum and presenting to the board today. We appreciate public members coming forward to express concern or perspective, and the board will listen carefully to your presentation and carefully consider what you have to say today. The board will not be providing a response or engaging dialogue following your presentation. We will, however, ask any clarifying questions should we need any, and provide a written response by the next board meeting. So please go ahead, and our Associate Superintendent, Christine Lee, will be timing. You have 5 minutes to speak. Thank you.
And here I go. I'll jump right in. Great. Well then, yes, I am here as a response to the board's invitation to identify stakeholder priorities through the town hall survey as well as the town hall meeting. So me, as a stakeholder, I am a parent, but I'm also a social worker. I've been employed by the district to support youth with barriers within the school setting, as well as employed in the community to support student access to education. So it's very clear academic achievement is the priority for this board, I would assume. But as a social worker, I'm here to say that food security is also a foundational component to our capacity to learn and achieve. Food insecurity is on the rise, as evidenced by the numbers from our local food banks, and nationally speaking, it is highest in Alberta, with 22% of families being impacted. In terms of this nutrition grant within this district, it's evidence of the undisputed fact placed upon food accessibility. National programs, best practices, encourage communities to adapt to the local context of their community, and interesting to hear the priority of leaning into, specialization in our communities, our community partners, and to complement and build on programs that already exist. That's a national program's best practice. So in that vein, I propose that the district continue to focus on its priority of academic achievement while allowing already existing community programs to meet the food security needs of our student populations to ensure equitable access for all students. So in the coming month, I will be gathering some information reaching out to different stakeholders to provide a more robust presentation for you all hopefully next month, which I will make sure 14 days I get it in to say that I want to do that. So in terms of priorities, let's put food on the table so that our students can reach their full potential. And that's it. That's my time. Thank you very much for your time and any questions. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Meg, for coming and sharing with us today. Does anyone have any clarifying questions? All right, seeing none, I thank you for joining us today, and we will be responding with a letter to you. Thank you, Meg. Would you like, yeah, if you'd like to make a motion, and then we can.
I move, we move in camera briefly.
Okay. Those in favor? Those opposed? Tyler is opposed. Please note that. 511. All right, thank you very much. We are back from in camera. Andrea.
I would like to rescind the motion that was on the floor and change it to this one, please.
Okay, please read the motion.
Okay. I move that the board authorize administration to provide support to the YMCA in the application of the Building Blocks Capital Grant for child care as part of the Galbraith modernization. Should the grant funding be received, information will be brought back to the board for next steps.
Thank you, Andrea. Is there any discussion from that motion? Are you able to please read it again?
Yes. I move that the board authorize administration to provide support to the YMCA in the application of the Building Blocks Capital Grant for a child care as part of the Galbraith modernization. Should the grant funding be received, information will be brought back to the board for next steps.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Oh yeah, Tina, would you get Christina, please?
Here,
Or somebody, oh, thank you, Christine. All right. All right, we will move through division highlights. Oh, I'm sorry, Craig? That is 13.4 under information items. Yep. So now we will move through division highlights. Just give trustees opportunity to share one or two highlights from this past month. Craig, can I start with you?
Yep. Attended public school boards. Last night I had a school council meeting, and I probably attended a basketball game in there somewhere. That's it.
Thank you, Craig. Andrea. It's fine, Andrea. I'll jump to Jenny.
I just wanted to highlight, as a parent, I've had some recent opportunities to meet with some of my own kids' teachers for parent-teacher interview, but also as a trustee, I've had the opportunity to attend some of our schools' open houses that are associated with that same bringing in our families to have awareness of their students' learning and of the ongoings of the classroom and in their school environment. And I really appreciate all the work that our teachers and our administrators put in to make these opportunities for us to connect and create community, and also for families to be involved in learning alongside their students. So I'll highlight that effort and express that appreciation.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jenny. Christina.
Yeah, enjoyed lots of visits to schools and school councils, and have enjoyed learning alongside parents about the new report card modifications. People are really excited about it, so that's been nice to witness. And part of our division privileges is also to get to visit, to do our committees. And I just wanted to say thank you to Jamie, who's our CUPE rep on our Poverty Intervention Committee, who got us connected to an opportunity to be the Tim Hortons Smile Cookie Charity for this year. So you can find us in Tim Hortons this spring. So yeah.
Very exciting. Allison.
Thank you. It was always a pleasure to attend town hall and to have such great conversations with parents, community, and staff that come out. And then, of course, all the responses. As well, it was great to attend Winston Churchill event in regards to the welding shop. I know when Colton first came forward and talked about the project, and it was really about, reaching out to community, and he has done such an amazing job in reaching out to community and seeing community come together for us to have this partnership for welding shop and to be able to grow our high school students into welders and tradespeople that we need in our community. And then last but not least is I attended the high school zones for curling in our community, and all of our high schools participated, and a couple of the high school teams are moving on to provincials. So it's great to see our athletes and our amazing coaches that dedicate so much of their time to our young curlers as well.
Thank you, Allison. Andrea.
Thank you. I was so lucky on World Read Aloud Day to get to read at Galbraith to the EAP children and the kindergarten children, and at Senator Buchanan to grade 1. Got to read the mitten and use all my stuffies and put them back in the mitten and let them explode all over the floor. And Mike, I can relate to turning the book so that the children can see the pictures, and with my failing eyesight, good thing it's memorized. I was happy to attend a council meeting at Wilson. I was thrilled to be at the groundbreaking at Churchill for the welding with Southland, and to find out that so many of those supporters and sponsors are grads of Churchill. So nice to see them give back to their school, and loved being at town hall and got to sit at a table with 2 of my kindergarten children who will now graduate this year. So it was an eventful month. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Yes, it was an eventful month. There's lots of things that I could speak to, but 2 I'll mention. I popped over to Lakeview to see their family dance. They have great community events there, and it was just really fun to see a gym filled with families and staff dancing with their kids, and it was just a really good event. They're building a really good community there, and I was also able to take in, as a parent, Oliver Jr. at Gilbert Patterson. It was a great musical, and the kids did a phenomenal job, and their teacher, Tyler Levitt, did a phenomenal job leading that group of students. All right, we will move on to 13.1, School Council Conference Support. Christine.
Yes, so last board meeting, we brought forward a recommendation for conference support for school council. Allison pointed out that maybe we had the wrong value there, so we went back and looked, and sure enough, Allison was correct. And so providing some clarity on the ways that this board supports school council to start. So as of January 2025, last month, in lieu of membership, if you do not join the membership, we have that $100 that supports parent engagement activities. That's been actioned and has been sent out to school councils. Also, we send out each year $250 per school council to support the activity school council. And those are at funds that are at the discretion of school council. We've been doing that for a number of years. So that's still in place. And then third, we have up to $400 per school council for registration costs to attend the annual ASCA conference in AGM. And so that was that $400 per school council that really we're trying to create a new framework for. And so that works out to a budget of $9,200 that we have for that in the kitty. And so what we did is we've kind of amended our suggestions based on also comments provided by trustees in the last meeting. So first of all, for 24-25, we still have the $400 and that is available for school council for anyone who attends in person or virtually. And then for 25-26, we're looking to amend the framework to an application process, and the parameters for the funding would include, we'd have $9,200 available in support, and that would support 6 individuals to attend the conference in person to a maximum of $1,530 per person. and would be available in any given year for in-person conference attendance. Should more than 6 individuals make a request to attend the conference, whether in person or the max amount of, and it should be $9,200, I apologize for that error, may be shared between all individuals that have been made an application and have been approved. For example, if there are 8 approved applicants, then $9,200 would be split, resulting in a maximum reimbursement per person of $1,150. The application must be received by December 1st, so we made that earlier at the request of based on discussion last month. The application will be presented to the January meeting of Division School Council for nomination. All nominated applications would then be forwarded to the office superintendent for final approval by the superintendent or designated by January 31st. So that gives them lots of time to get registered and that sort of thing. And then applicants receive approval, they submit their receipts, all that other stuff, and we have a form that we've created for that, as well as an application form. Yeah. No, that's the amendment from last time.
Thank you, Christine. I do see, Tyler, I see your hand. Before I go to you, it is 5:58. We have 3 more discussion items in Article 13. So I'm curious, are these items that are able to be tabled to next month's meeting, or are these items that need to be discussed today? Craig?
I think they need to be discussed, but I would also say that it won't take long with me.
Okay. Then Allison?
And I would say that we still need to move into in-camera, which would mean we
Oh,
would
we
still
do.
need a meeting. Yeah, so we need to extend this one.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to extend, please? Christina, all in favor? All opposed? Oh, that's carried. Thank you.
Did he oppose, Tyler?
Tyler, you're in favor, correct? Yeah. No,
Okay.
he's in favor. Yeah. Tyler,
Okay.
your hand is up.
Okay, just in regard to this one, oh, I moved my thing looking ahead now. So I don't think we've come to agreement on these parameters yet, so I don't think I'm amending anything, but I would prefer that the parameters of this say that we support a maximum of 8 individuals to attend the conference, which would give a maximum of $1,150 per person anyway. So we're going to take out some confusion about sometimes it can be more depending on how many people go. It's the maximum is just going to be $1,150. And then if more than 8 people want to go, then they just split that kitty up by however many people go. I think that is easier to understand, makes more sense. And like I said, it's just, then people know it's just a maximum of $1,150 either way. The other thing, two more things to put in there. We need to make sure that we say something in these parameters about expenses for mileage and meals and agreement's not the word, but based on the school division reimbursement policy for those expenses, so that they know exactly what they're going to get for mileage. It's not based on some other government thing. It's based on what we're given in the division. Same thing with meals. We know exactly what that's based on. It's based on what the division gives for meal allowances.
Oh, okay. We were going to have them, we give receipts for gas and like make just full receipts.
I think it's better to just go with mileage. And I think it's better we just do it the same way we do everything else in the division. Because I also, if it's meals, like, someone could also, their expenses for the trip are only $600, so I'm going to go to the nicest steakhouse in all of Edmonton and really have a good time. Like, we have to have some parameters around that, in my mind.
Thanks, Tyler. Any other comments? Jenny?
I'll just say thank you. This was a request that came from Division School Council that I had the privilege of bringing to the board, and so I appreciate the work that's gone into setting that up. So thank you.
I believe one of the requests too last month was that once we were happy with this, we would take it to Division School Council, which we could do potentially on Monday, and they can take a look at it to see if they have any concerns or issues.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Tyler, is that a new hand? Nope, not a new hand. All right, thank you for all your work on this and.
So everybody was okay with Tyler's amendments? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I'll make those amendments.
Okay. All right, we will move on. 13.2 PSBA meeting, February 6th and 7th. Craig?
Thank you. One thing, if I could stress, it would really be nice for some other trustees to come up to public school. The PD is unbelievable. Allison's been there and I've never had better PD. I've given you the minutes, the meeting summary. Just like to point out that it would be interesting to talk to, and I don't know if we have, but Rupert's Land Institute, which has done a lot on the Métis history and identity. And the other thing is I'm going to send every trustee an activity, and it would be just so that you can talk, we should have talk about this, but the question was revitalizing Alberta's public school system and leveling the playing field for Alberta public schools. And two of the things that we need to look at is what do people mean by choice and why do they want more choice? And I think that would be a valuable discussion, say at Committee of the Whole, that I could refer back to the Public School Board Association. And that is my report.
Thank you very much, Craig. We look forward to that email. All right, 13.3 Joint City School Board. Allison?
Thank you. It is a quick item under 2. It says that school board advocacy items were shared for the collective advocacy. These items were emailed to council representatives and are attached to this report. I am missing them from the report, so I would just like to have them, please.
Yes, absolutely. When you pulled it, I came to the report and I circled that. I'm like, this is exactly what Allison's going to be asking for. So yes, Tina, if you could please include that in follow through and just put that in the agenda. It was intended to go here. Would you like me to list off the 6? No? Okay. So that will be included. Thank you, Allison, for pointing that out. I did notice that too late. All right, 13.4 Board Budget Committee. Craig?
Yes, in reading this, and I've talked to Christina about that, I think we should add in the background the dates that she talked to all of the trustees during that period on the budget, and that the report would be given to us at, the findings of the trustees would be given to us at the Strategic Planning Committee. I think that's important for the public to know that, that we're involved in that too. So that's all I wanted. And I think Christine is amenable to that.
Right. She looks amenable. Thank you very much, Craig. I appreciate that. Public forum, 14.1, Nicole Williams presented to the board at our January meeting. So the written response is included. No correspondence has been received. And correspondence sent, you will find a letter of support for the Joint City of Lethbridge and Lethbridge School Boards Committee. That the SPC is happening this Thursday on the 27th, and I will be attending to speak there. And a motion is being forwarded to ratify the Joint City Committee as an official committee of the board. Allison?
If we can just go back up to 14.1, the public forum response.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So if you have the letter there, just on the first page on the last sentence, it says, ultimately, we hope the updated trustee code of conduct, and I'm just looking for some clarity. I know that you often say words matter, and I think that words do matter. So I'm just looking for some clarity if you can provide with that for what the interpretation of that is in this letter that was sent to our public forum member with the updated trustee code of conduct that was sent February 20. Well, it was, I don't know if it was sent today or not, but anyways, I just would like some clarity.
Are you looking for clarity on the word ultimately?
I'm just looking for clarity on the word updated.
Updated from what we currently have. So the one that we are working towards.
Okay, so when it's interpretation from this is that it's already been updated? So this sounds like we have already updated. We have an updated trustee code of conduct. So I'm just curious of I'm just curious of the updated trustee code of conduct that you're referring to.
I'm referring to the updated in the future because the letter is referring to the policy that we're working towards and working on. So therefore that updated trustee code of that's the one I'm referring to. So I apologize if that phraseology is confusing or misleading. That was my intent. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. Can I have a motion to move us in camera, please? Craig, those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much.